watching. Please like and subscribe to help us spread TIPA's positive approach message around the world.
Well, good evening, everybody, or potentially morning, depending on where you are in the world, because we do tend to have people from various time zones, and some of them are exactly on the opposite side of the world. So they're 12 hours difference, whereas we are 7 p.m. They might be 7 a.m. Eastern time. Ours is Eastern time. And already today, we can see where everybody else has been. I've been to Malaysia. I've been to Texas. I went to Cincinnati. I was up in Asheville. Then I went to, I was in England, near London. And then, let's see. Well, then I was in North Carolina. So I've been traveling, although the only distance I've actually gone is up and down the hallway. So, about 200 feet, 300. So Beth, I'm curious where you have been today with the work you do.
This year or today?
Or just today or this week. How about this week?
This week, I've actually been here at home in just outside of Grand Rapids, Michigan. So southern.
That's not the only place you've been, because you have talked to people in Alaska. You talked to people.
True.
Now, see, let's be honest.
Okay. Yeah. I guess virtually.
That counts.
Okay. Yes. This week, I've talked to people in Brazil, in Australia, in China, in Scotland. And it's really not fair, because I've been chatting nonstop over the course of this week, not only with people that are coming to our certification courses to learn to do and to teach the way that you've taught us to, but also in my group chat with Walking the Talk for Dementia.
Oh, yeah.
So that pretty much is like everybody from Africa to Europe to
Okay, so
Asia
at some point this evening, we are going to talk about that experience a little bit.
Oh, good.
Because it's a very rare phenomena to actually have an experience like Beth had in many, many ways. And we actually sent Beth on this mission along with brother John Richard, who is a person living with Lewy body dementia. And the two of them went and did this really remarkable thing with a bunch of other remarkable people.
Yeah.
And so that's an experience we want people out there to know about, because it is pretty rare for an organization to commit at that level to really changing how the world works for us and the experience that people have when they're living with dementia in one form or another and in one way or another. And that's what we do a little bit here. So Cheryl, Beth is up in Michigan, in all honesty, where it's how many degrees, Beth, at the moment? And count wind chill. Count the wind chill.
It feels like -25, but the snow that's coming down in our storm currently is very wet and sticky, so it's probably actually kind of warm.
Relatively.
Yeah.
Yeah, but with the wind chill, it chills it down really fast.
Yeah, and we also have that thing that the northerners or the very southerners of this planet know about, which is you feel colder at the beginning of the winter than what the temperature is at the end of winter.
Well, that's because your blood is thin from the summer.
Yes.
I'm from West Virginia, and your blood thins, and then in the winter it thickens up, and that's how you can tolerate the change in temperature. Now, that was my grandma, and you do have thickened blood in the winter. So in the spring, early, you have to take in cod liver oil to get your blood to thin.
Oh, so you're not so hot. And I see you've tried that remedy by your facial expression.
Yeah, it's not ever one of my favorite. I used to hate it. And I'd try to, but she would hold your nose and make you swallow. And that's not a good technique. I've seen it used in a variety of places. It's really a bad technique. My grandma was a great proponent of it. She would do cod liver oil. And then if you drank it all, she would give you a spoon of molasses.
So now you need molasses too with
the cod liver oil. Yeah.
That is not a way that we actually advise people help someone else take medication.
Not a health advice.
I love that. That's the way we get our dog to take their meds. We throw it down his throat or throw it down and hold her muzzle until she licks her nose, and then we know she swallowed it. But yeah. So luckily, we're talking about people that have got
I
a
would
little
say that my
skills maybe than-
grandmother actually then later in her life developed dementia. I never held her nose and made her swallow. I will just say that in passing, that I had learned something that she did to us as a children that I didn't turn around and do to her when she was having trouble swallowing and eating.
experience everything.
Experience change. So Cheryl
Yeah.
is our friend in the same time zone up there, but she's actually up outside of Toronto. I mean, we could say where you are exactly, but it's a small town outside of Toronto, essentially.
You're correct. You're
Yeah.
correct.
And what's your temperature up there?
-1 Celsius, which would be approximately 28 Fahrenheit. And it is
Look at you being official.
Yes. Well, I put in the chat that it was 28, and Jeffrey said, well, that's pretty good for Ontario, for Canada. And so you caught me. I was trying to use the language I thought that you were thinking about.
Yeah. So Celsius is a difference between Celsius and Fahrenheit. Yeah. All right, Denise, how is it over on the East Coast where you are? You're a little further north. You're at Newport News area.
I'm in
Virginia Beach.
Williamsburg, and it was 25 degrees this morning when I left the house at 7. And it
was
worked out
17
to
in
like
North
a
Carolina.
toasty 45. So
Ooh,
yeah,
there you go.
yeah. But at least the sun's out, so we're okay with that.
There you go. What about you, Sandra?
So I'm here on the West Coast and in Canada, so it's 6 degrees Celsius. So the rule of thumb is you double it and add 30.
Yes.
So 42 or whatever, but we had a huge amount of fog this morning.
Oh,
It was so thick that I got lost going to places that I knew how to get to
wow.
because I couldn't see it. It was amazing.
Wow.
But
Wow.
now it's clear. It's lovely.
Cool. Great. So, okay, that leaves us with Samantha, who's down in Texas, in Dallas, Fort Worth area.
It's 52 and I've got my hoodie and I'm shivering. So I think I need some opposite of cod liver oil.
Yeah, we'll have to see what it is you take in the. I can't remember what she would do in the fall. I just remember cod liver in the spring.
Extra layers.
Oh, yeah. And Jeffrey's in Bogota, Colombia. And so Jeffrey,
That's correct. And we're in the same time zone as you right now.
there you go.
Although a few thousand miles south, obviously.
Yeah, a few thousand.
And the temperatures, is right now, I was trying to get it into Fahrenheit, but it's 15 degrees Celsius right now.
Oh,
The high
we
today was 21 Celsius, which is about 68 or 70 Fahrenheit was the high. The low tonight will be 10 Celsius, which should be, what would that be? It's 5.9, so it's
50.
about 50, yeah, about 50.
Yeah, 50, 59.
48, 50, yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. And that Laura, we have a guest, Laura, because everybody else is sort of here a good bit. Laura, you're a guest. So where are you located?
I'm located in South Florida, so
so
it's relatively warm here. We're having, even though it's very cold for us, it's of course warmer than where you guys are from, and we're having a spate of nice weather after a brutally long summer.
Yeah,
So,
you all did.
we're
keep
having
summer
really nice
a
weather now.
long time. 80 degrees, 90 degrees, 100 degrees. You guys were miserable in the summertime. Miserable. And then hurricanes. Let's have a hurricane. If you can't do anything else, let's have a hurricane. Let's have another one. We liked the first one. Let's do it.
Yeah,
Storm surge. Let's have storm surge.
Yeah, so the hurricane season is over and snowbird season has started. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Now it's getting crowded. Now you have nice weather, everybody's coming down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, after you've figured out where we are, then no matter, everybody's coming down. That's what everybody wants to be where it's nice. All right. Well, now that we've sort of done that, the reason I wanted to spend a little time talking about weather is that it turns out weather matters when people are living with dementia. Because where I'm from could, for me, if I'm living with a type of dementia that robs me of recent memory, robs me of recent life events, and sends me back into my previous life experience. So I'm originally from West Virginia. And in the wintertime, That's about the only time as a child, if I wasn't in school, I wore shoes. I would wear shoes in the winter, but in the summer, I was barefoot from, probably March through the summer into the fall into October. And then when it would be snowy, that's when you switch and you get shoes on. And, the only other time you wore shoes is if you were working the fields and helping to bale hay or do something out working in the fields. Yes, you would wear shoes then because of critters and such. And sometimes work boots as a kid. I would wear those. But other than that, we stayed barefoot. So for me, being in North Carolina, it's not that different. But if I were in Florida, I might bundle up in the wintertime thinking, oh my God, it's going to be so cold out. And want to put on my boots and want to put on my gloves. And I really think I need to bundle up. And I also think these people are so frigging stupid. They plant palm trees. You know what's going to happen. The doggone things will be dead by spring. Why do these people keep planting this crap? There's no way it's last in the winter. These idiots, honest to Pete, they have more money than sense. And I actually think I'm being logical, and people are really like, what are you talking about? No, you've got to undo, Mom, you can't wear that many layers. You're going to have a heat stroke. I'm freezing because my brain is telling me information, although it may be inaccurate, I think it's right. So if you listen to where everybody's from, I'm going to ask how many of you are from where you used to be from? Beth is there. Cheryl is.
What?
Laura's there.
Wait, no, I'm not.
Oh, not Sandra. Oh, no, you're different. Where did you come from, Laura?
New York.
Oh, so you're going to be like me. You're going to be trying to warm up because, it's wintertime.
Well, after 5 years here today, it really does feel cold. Yeah.
See, it happens. And that's without dementia. Imagine what
presumably, yeah.
Presumably. Sandra, where are you from originally? Because you're from British Columbia now. Oh, you're muted again. You did a great job muting, but you have to do the other side of it now. Ooh, and Matthew lived in Missouri most of his youth. Now he's in Kansas, same winter, so he's okay. Sandra, what about you?
I'm from Detroit.
Ooh, yeah. Talk about miserable winter. Ugh,
Miserable winter.
Chicago or Buffalo, I think.
No, not Buffalo. No, but cold northwesterlies. Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. All right. So we are going to open. Buffalo is worse. I agree. The lake effect is just like nothing like it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let Beth do a chat with Laura behind the scenes here for a second to see if Laura has something she would like to investigate. And in the meantime, I'm going to bring up screening for cognitive change. And I'm going to actually, Jeffrey, you're from Buffalo. We were talking trash on Buffalo. Sorry.
No, I think it was respect, Teepa. We were talking respect for the snow they get. It's not Michigan.
Anybody who can live in Buffalo has got my respect because I am telling you. Oh, did you? That's where the snow was so high up against the houses and the windows that you could not get out one side of your house at best. People were coming out of the second story windows to go down.
Correct.
Yeah. I remember I had friends that lived in Buffalo at that time in 77 because I lived in Pittsburgh. So pretty miserable. Yeah. I don't know how you did it. Oof.
Well, my family, the house that my family had at the time had no insulation in the walls. And with the heat on full blast the whole time, we never got above 55 degrees Fahrenheit inside.
Wow.
And if you went outside, the wind chill was so cold that any exposed skin would freeze immediately on contact.
Oh my heaven. Wow. Denise
and that lasts for 2 weeks, which is weird because they just had another big lake effect snowstorm.
They just got dumped on really badly.
But it was only a day or so. So
yeah. Well, I guess that's called lucky in Buffalo.
Yep.
And Denise was in Norway, and yeah, so nice warm places. I mean, like cool, I think is an understatement. I think cold is where they are.
Yeah, one of my memories of being in Norway, and they had things on the roofs to kind of keep the snow from sliding off, but sometimes you would
Yep.
walking to work one day, I had a pile, it was like a cartoon. Pile of snow came and just dumped on top of me, and I was just covered, soaking wet. And I had to turn around and go home and
wow.
change. It was pretty memorable. It was like, I mean, serious, like being in a cartoon.
Well, I remember the one year in North Carolina, we got 2 feet of snow. And then after we had the 2 feet of snow, we had a day of sleet. And so there was like about 3 inches of ice on top of the 2 feet of snow. And it took us literally, this was back when my son was 5. It took us 3 weeks for the roads to clear enough because we don't have any really strong clearing equipment. It took us 3 weeks to clear the roads so the kids could go back to school. So they were out of school for 3 solid weeks because they couldn't get the roads dry and not icy that kids could get back to school. So, all right. So we're going to kick off some questions. We had gotten a question in that someone had tried to do the online Montreal cognitive assessment called the MoCA. Now, the MoCA has come to be, we like the MoCA, say researchers. And researchers are classically looking at working with people who have a fairly high, classically, I think, educational level. And so the MoCA is really designed to be a much more broad-ranging screening tool than was the Folstein. The Folstein was a different tool. And we can talk about why the Folstein, which is known as the Minty Mental State Exam, is less preferred. And Beth back by background. Beth, tell them a little bit about your background, because I do want us to sort of, I'm an occupational therapist by training, and I've worked in a variety of universities in clinical settings, both inpatient, outpatient, home health, hospice, long-term care. So I've been around the block for over, now it's getting up to, 45 years plus. So I have worked in the field of really looking at cognitive screening, cognitive assessment over the course of my career for 45 years. And times have changed. I mean, they have drastically changed, but in many ways they still have it. And so the mini mental was developed back when I was a student and became available. And it's a 30-question piece. And it's what's the day, what's the date, what's the day of the week, what's the month, what's the season, what's the year, what's the name of this place, what floor are we on, what city, what county, what state. I want you to remember 3 things. I'm going to give you 3 words, ball flag 22. What were the 3 words I asked you to remember? Okay, hold on to those. Now I'm going to try to trick you. I'm going to try to have you do other things. So I want you to be able to hold on to that. And so what's 100? Take away 7, take away 7, take away 7, take away 7. If you can't do that, could you spell? We have to do that 5 times, by the way. And then what's spell the word world backwards. Okay, now say this. No ifs, ands, or buts. All right, now write a sentence, any sentence, as long as it's a sentence. All right, now I would like you to draw 2 intersecting pentagons. Okay, when you've done that, if you can, take this letter, fold it in half, and put it on the floor. 3-step instruction. Can you follow all those? And now what I would like you to do is remember what those 3 words I asked you to remember at the beginning were. So just off the top of your head, how many of you think I might actually be able to sustain my ability to perform decently on this screen for a while? What do you think? How many of you think I could probably pull it off for a good long while?
Well, you memorized it already.
I was going to say you'll be probably better than the person asking you, Teepa. You'll be one step ahead.
So for me, do you think it's actually going to be the same kind of screen it would be if you've never heard those questions before and you got confronted with 10 orientation questions, 3 word remembering questions, the ability to do serial 7 subtraction or spell a word that's difficult to hear, take in, process, and then get in reverse. Draw 2 intersecting pentagons. I don't even know what your skill was before. What do you think? Is it really going to be a really good indicator of if I've had brain change that came with a thing like a dementia? Or could it be just looking at a limited ability that I've had my whole life?
Yeah, so without that baseline, Tifa, how is anyone really gonna know?
And if you took me and I did this the first time, and it was rough, but I worked really hard and I did really well. How many of you believe on my way back to the second time we are going to go in, that how many of you think I might be going, so what's today? Because I know she's going to ask. What month is it? Because there's the thing she says, she asked me about that when I go in. What's the name of this building? Because I want to know. Now, there were words. I remember there were 3 of them. The burst was ball flag. Do you remember what the third one was? Because I know she asked me about it. So what's happened to my testing? So Beth, you want to give us a hint about what's happening for me?
I'm not stupid. I might be having dementia, but I'm not stupid. And we're going into a very important building that has some funny smells about it. And if I don't pass this test, I lose things. So you better believe I'm going to be really good at being able to pull it together and maybe even practice ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
And even if I don't, I think we've got a situation where if I know I'm being tested and I know how much at stake, might I be able to literally gather every resource in my body and be able to perform this moment, and then on the way home, literally collapse on my friend, my family member.
Mm-hmm. Or get in the car, take an exit onto an interstate instead of an entrance onto an interstate, driving the wrong way, heading out of town because I think I'm entering it, running out of gas, pulling to the inside, wondering why all the traffic is going the wrong way, and getting out of the car and starting to walk down the median of the interstate. And when the highway patrol pulls up with lights flaring, wondering if my son called because I'm late to help my husband eat at the facility because he has dementia. And he's been dead 2 years.
But I passed that assessment, Tifa.
I did. And so I don't see why everybody's worried about me because they told me I did great.
I've got proof.
Yep.
In fact, I'm actually skilled enough to go and get my records so I can show it to my adult son.
Mm-hmm. And the attorney that I hired because now. So we're actually talking about real life situations that I have been involved in and Beth has been involved in. And we know that the mini mental state exam has been demonstrated over the course of time to be a better indicator of educational background and level and comfort with test taking than it is a really good measure of the possibility of a delirium, depression, anxiety issue, or dementia. And it will not identify people, particularly who have atypical dementias and are not lacking in the ability to keep up with orientation information and or cognitive skill set. And when we only test for 3 words, we are not even touching the very top of what typical behavior should be at recall. I should be able to hold on to 5 to 8 elements in my working memory. And you're only asking me for 3. So I'm already not testing some people, and yet I would be over testing others. So Jeffrey, you have a question for us.
I was just going to come. I mean, I've never looked up at the mini mental state, but the MoCA, which is only 10 questions, if I remember correctly.
We're going to take a look at it. So, but
it's similar to that. I remember that was, to be honest, I have to thank President number 45, soon to be number 47, because I think, if I remember correctly, he took the MoCA at one point in time, and he thought he was taking some intelligence IQ test. But that made me look it up. And then I realized that my wife couldn't answer 7 out of those 10 questions. And that's when I finally started working on getting a diagnosis and got my wife evaluated properly and everything.
Nice job, Jeffrey. Okay, so I'm
anyways, I don't
I'm gonna go cha-ching. Jeffrey's experience is way too common and way too unfortunate. By the time he recognized 7, the scoring on this is dramatic. That's when his brain said, oh, we need to get this looked at. This is something really not typical then, because we keep convincing ourselves, well, she's getting older. It could be, maybe it's just because she's had some problems with da-da-da-da. Maybe it's just her, maybe it's just this. So I'm going to go over the MoCA. So Beth, do you want to say anything before I use the MoCA, before I talk about it? Because this person that wrote in was a little concerned because it's the self-test. Now, I'm not using the self-test. I just want to go over what the MoCA is. But they tried to do the self-test and they found they couldn't quite figure out what they were supposed to do on the online version where you do it yourself and get your score. And she got a low score. And so she's like, do I need to be worried about myself? And so, Beth, I'm going to have you think about that in the background, because she's not somebody who's done testing online before. She didn't have anything other than the instructions that came with the MoCA to do it. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to go ahead here and show you the MoCA per se. I will show it to you. It's available. I just pulled it up. You can pull it up. There's a variety of sort of versions of it. It's called the Montreal Cognitive Assessment. And it screens, I want to highlight, it screens for mild cognitive impairment. And notice in this particular version, it talks about when to use it, what are some pearls, which are highlights, and what are some pitfalls, and then why you might use it. Okay, so the very first question on it is, does the person have more than 12 years of education? And you can't count kindergarten. And if the answer is no, you give them a +1. So they get a bonus of 1 point if they have less than 12 years, not counting kindergarten. And you don't give them any points if they did get more than 12 years. Now, here's one of the very first things. You are going to try to do what's called trail making. So you're going from a number to a letter to a number to a letter to a number to a letter, but you're doing it in a specific way. So you're doing 1A, 2B, 3C, 4D, 5E. Okay, that's what you're trying to do without lifting your pen from the paper. So when you're doing this, what you're doing is switching your focus. So even though you're motor-wise doing this task, you're actually cognitively having to let go of, okay, so there's 1 and then there's A. And now I have to let go of A and go back to counting 2, and then I got to let go of 2 and I got to go to B. And then I've got to, so I'm keeping track, but I'm switching lanes over and over. Much as when I'm driving a car, I'm having to do a lot of switching of attention, although I also have to sustain attention. So it's a more functional measure than the things that are on the Volstein or the mini mental. Okay, so if the person was able to do this accurately, you get a 1. If they didn't do it correctly, they get a 0. You don't get partial credit. You don't get to notice how did they go. Did they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then A, B, C, D, E? For me, that's important data. But as far as scoring it, I get the value of the scoring, but I'm also interested in how the person approaches the task. If they say, I'm not doing this, this is ridiculous, I don't even know why you want me to do it. Wow. Talk about feeling threatened. They feel super threatened. So I'm going to say, you're not sure why we're doing it. I want to establish like a baseline so we sort of know how you're doing. versus if you can't do this, you shouldn't be driving a motor vehicle? Does that matter, do you think? Let me ask the team. Do you think that matters how I go into this and what I say about it?
Yeah, there's truly a clinical evaluation element here that we're missing if we're just relying on these. And I'm not going to call them tests. I'm going to call them screens.
Exactly. Yeah.
My mother had this exact test. It's like on the kitchen table, paper and pencil to see if she could still drive. So she did this part. This was like the first question, and she did this correctly, but she did it so slowly that he failed her.
Huh. Okay. Well, here's an interesting thing. Does it say how long you have to do it?
No, it doesn't, but I guess
So
if you were,
that's
yeah.
So that's one of those things where we weaponize things sometimes. And it's just something to be aware of. I'm not saying it's good, it's bad. I mean, if our goal was to have her not drive, this may have been a way to help her see that how quickly or how slowly, but I would use it differently.
Well,
So
this was the first one, and then he did some other things as well.
But I would be like, okay, well, let's see how quickly you're able to do it. Let's do it again, and let's see if you pick up speed with a second rendition. Okay, let's try it again. And we're going to just see if it gets better or not. Because what I'm interested in is not just how she performs the first time, but with a little rehearsal, does it change? Because how many years has she been driving? At that time?
I don't know, say 30.
Say 30. How many times has she done this particular task?
No, this is with me. I'll assume it's the first time.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is where you take a task on paper and pencil, you turn it into a measurement of how somebody performs in real time. And it is a tricky thing. And I don't think there is a data point where we would say, oh, if you do it like this, absolutely. Now there is a path, there is this trail making, AB, that you can actually in Virginia, they do use it as part of the driving evaluation. Can you complete it accurately within a set amount of time, or do you run into trouble with that? And that does tell us, wow, the speed of decision making is limited, and we need to really take a look at driving, because you should be evaluated for your skill at making choices and decisions quickly in a driving situation, which is a little different than you shouldn't be driving. All right, now here's your next task. I want you to trace the diagram in order. Now, Beth, what does that mean when you hear that to you?
Trace the diagram in order. I mean, just taking it as it is. Now I get experience with the MoCA, not at the level that Denise does, but I'm not exactly sure especially if I'm taking this online, I'm not exactly sure what that means. And if I'm hypersensitive to the idea of what the outcome of this test is, I'm wondering if it may affect, and this is where having an experienced individual guiding that assessment. So for example, in every one of these tests, there's generally, as you begin to learn it as a young professional, there's a script you follow. And there's literally if-then statements for each of these questions. And so if I come back and casually being able to breathe, say, trace the diagram in order. So you talking in order of like how I would just draw it? Or is there a particular order I'm supposed to be seeing here?
So you're wondering about whether or not how would you draw it so that you ended up with this shape?
Exactly. So Denise has the proper way that we give this test, this particular piece of the test. So Denise, what's the phrase, because I couldn't recall it off the top of my head, for the instructions on this part?
The instructions are copy this figure, and there's a space allotted below. Trace this figure is not correct. And so if you all want to see me get up on my soapbox, I will get up on my soapbox about the MoCA and how it's not administered properly, People are not certified. Any people that are certified don't have experience in giving it.
Yeah. So
And
here's
so
the
I feel
interest.
very, and this is something I feel very strongly about.
Yeah.
People are giving this that, again, have not gone through the certification process, have not watched people administer, and then have somebody watch them administer it to make sure it's being done properly. Because here's the deal. If it's not administered properly, it's not going to be, you're not going to get an accurate score. And I see a lot of MoCAs misscored. And and this is the question that I deal with all the time, is if you don't do it right, it doesn't mean anything. Also, it's a piece of an evaluation. It's not a determinant. I have people that don't score well on the MoCA, but they're highly functional. And I have people that score very well that are not functional. It cannot be a determinant. It is a piece of the puzzle. Okay, I'm getting off my soapbox now.
Okay, you're done. But look at how simply one word like trace it in order, that's a very odd description of how to do something. So like, are you talking, I draw two squares and then connect them? What are you asking me to do here? And for people who are very high detail, this could be overwhelming and stressful. So now I've had a couple things I'm not necessarily feeling great about. And now now you ask the patient to copy. So first, in this one, you're asking them to trace it. And then we ask the person to copy it.
Teepa,
Yes.
in the correct order, right away, I wanted to ask because I used to give out the MoCA in long-term care, but my question there was, where's the start? Where it said in the right order. Where do I start then?
And so that feeling of being uncertain and the anxiety that kicks in might actually deplete my ability to complete it. And it doesn't really have a whole lot to do with my cognitive, other than I'm getting super anxious because I didn't think I'd have much trouble. And now I'm starting to doubt everything I do. And then we ask the patient to draw a clock with it's basically 10 after 11. And the bottom line is every time you do it, you're supposed to change the time so that you have a hand on one side and a hand on the other side. You want to make sure it's not both hands on one side of the clock, but varying that. So you're not asking for the same time every single time that you do this, if you do a repeat on this. So the scoring of the clock, we can get up to 5 points here. Oh, excuse me, no, it's either you get 2 points, you get 1 point, you get 1 point, you get 1 point. Sorry, yes. So you did one part direct. Okay, now, here's the thing that was interesting. Ask the person to name the first animal. So if they don't name, ask them to name the second animal, ask them to name the third animal. I don't know if you remember this, but when the guy that was going to be president now did this, he was actually describing the elephant that's not even on here, if I remember correctly. Sort of like I'm not sure that one's here. Okay, so then we do ask for five words. And we ask him to repeat it right away. And then we ask him to do it 2 other times. So we give them digits, and then we ask them to reverse the detail of the digits. So they have to do it in the opposite direction, because I'm asking them to take in the data, reverse the data in digits is a different task. And then we will do that with a different amount. Then we ask them to read letters and tap their finger for each time there's an A. And then we ask him to do serial 7 subtractions. I say again, if you've never been good at math, this one is a kicker. And then you ask him to read and repeat, I only know that John is the one to help today. And we're trying to check out the possibility that the person is starting to have trouble with prepositions and connecting words, and they might be skipping or misstating or missaying things. And then we have the cat always hid under the couch when dogs were in the room, which has a little, it's a little different. And then you have to come up with 11 words or more or less that start with the letter F. So let's just see let's see. Beth. Now, when I said your name, what happened in your brain at the moment when I said Beth?
I am going to be a great non-example. So there's an amygdala response right away.
And what were you thinking right away when I said Beth?
You know, it's interesting. The idea of coming up with words, believe it or not, is not my forte. Even though I speak for a living, when it comes to assessments and naming things, I've never been good at it. My phone has auto-corrected my husband's name from Tim to Tom. And there was a moment of tiredness in the airport where I thought maybe I was wrong and it isn't Tim. This is after 30 years of marriage, but I'm not kidding.
I know.
It's looking at this, not only you're looking at whether or not this history is going to be a match, whether or not I'm having a panic moment because I don't feel like, gosh, if I have to perform for whether it's alive or something else, but also this idea that what type of dementia do I have? Because different types of dementias, baseline aside.
Yes.
So the day that I begin to not recognize and remember people's names should not be any sort of indication for anybody that I'm going through some cognitive change, including apparently my husband.
Yeah. Yeah. And we should know that. We all want to know that about Beth, because if we don't, we could make assumptions about her brain change when she actually hasn't had brain change. Well, she has fatigue change, but that's pretty much what Beth does when she's fatigued. And what if I said, okay, Samantha, as many words as you can, starting with F, go.
For brick. Finally. Fluffy. Figure. For, did I already say that one?
You said 4 already.
Oh, dang. Follow.
Fee, fi, fo, fum.
Yes, thank you. Fee, fi, fo,
Jeffrey knows
fum.
how to beat the game. You only need one more.
Flower.
Good job. Which one?
The one on my desk, which is not even a flower, but it came to mind. So I had a visual. Thank God for that.
Okay, so here's the thing. Okay, all this playing a little bit. Let me just make sure I get to the very end of the screen. And it is nothing but a screening tool. It is a screening tool, but it is a screening tool. If you did not have good experiences in school with testing, what do y'all think? Okay, so now here's your other things. Ask the similarity between a train and a bicycle. Similarity between a watch and a ruler. Now, ask the person to recall those words that you did up above. What's the date, the month, the year, the place, the time, and the date, the month, the year, the day, the place, and the city. And then this is the questions that were included in the MoCA back when it was created.
So Teepa.
Yes.
In the context, and somebody asked out
so this is back when it was created. So I want to be clear. This was the original MoCA.
Right. So
not the reversions that have happened since.
What are the questions that you come up with when you hear someone got, for example, someone mentioned out in wherever we are live, Facebook world or YouTube, I think it is. YouTube world. So-and-so got a 16 out of 30. What are the questions that still remain for you, or is that definitive?
Yeah. First thing would be, so what did they have trouble on and what did they seem to do well on? Even just with that tool, I want to know. So tell me a little bit about where it was done and when it was done and what was going on. Were they hospitalized, or was this an outpatient visit? How were they perceiving it? Was it under duress, or was it something that, they've done before? Is the first time they've ever taken this? What's their background? I mean, those are just some basic questions I want to know about how much weight I might want to put into this thing and how much I'm like already going, I'm not going to look at this much at all because there's too many variables that tell me, ugh, I don't want this. Tell me what you're noticing about what got you to want to do this in the first place. Why was this done? So that's my first take on the whole thing before I go anywhere else. Is sort of like, I need some background data on this. Because 16 out of 30, for some people, does this seem different than how they've been their whole life? Or, like he was PhD and he never had trouble. Like, so where are you saying that he's having trouble? I mean, I want to know more about the human being than I do about their test results so far, or the screening results so far. So Beth, what about you? Because you come from a background, and Denise, I mean, we have several people here who are into the metrics of it. I don't do these anymore. Quite honestly, the one I will do is animal fluency because it lets me listen to how they use the language. And I will sometimes with people either do clock drawing or I'll do the trail making because I'm curious, really, how can they do that stuff? What's the question? So that's really where I'm at with it. I don't tend to use it early on. I think these kind of tests for too many people use them as literal guides rather than simply a tiny piece of a great big puzzle we should be looking at, as Denise indicated. So Beth, you want to bring anything into the room on this one?
Yeah.
Psychologist background there?
And every single one of these tests, whatever assessment is out there is used, has cutoffs. And they're simply guidelines. And unless we're looking at it, not only is it the skill of the tester, the environment, all those things you named, in the context of all the background information, I think that this is talking about the beginnings of a conversation. And how are we using it? Are we in a relationship where the person feels safe enough to consider the possibilities that may be associated with whatever it is they're seeing? And I think you're right. What brought you in today? Tell me a little bit about what you're struggling with. So, I mean, I don't dislike them, but in isolation and in the wrong hands, to me, they're a little tiny piece of the puzzle.
So after we've established, let's say I get about a 16, and then you want me to go do it again, and I get a 13, and then you want me to do it again, and I get a 15, and then I do it again, and I get a 10. What are you learning about me that you need to keep doing this? What's the point of doing it if it's a screen in the beginning to say I'm having some cognitive change? And what are you now finding out about me by me having these variable answers? What do you think?
Well, Denise, I'm going to pull you in here, or even Jeffrey, if he's got a thought on this with personal experience. But I mean, I've definitely got some thoughts, but Denise has seen this again and again.
So yeah, it is, and as I've said before, it's a piece of it. And somebody scoring a 16 can be due to a lot of different things. So this is what I tell people. This is where they are this moment in time. It does not define anything. So,
but she dropped a 13, Denise. I mean, like, we've been doing everything we could and she still dropped a 13.
But what's been going on?
Well, we're having her do the thing, and we're eating well, and she's exercising. So, I mean, what made her drop to 13? I thought we were getting a handle on this.
Okay, so this is where she is today. This does not define where she is. This is a moment in time.
I don't understand why she's not doing better.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about what's going on a daily basis. Let's figure out what changes are going on. Have there been changes in her life? Did she not sleep well last night? Is she very anxious? What are the other changes? Tell me a little bit more.
All the work, because I have been working really hard, and I thought with everything I did, we'd start to see an improvement.
Okay, so
I'm going to pause.
Okay, I was going to say, tell me more about that.
What really is happening here is that I didn't really get the first time that what we're working with is brain change in a
Right.
direction where I won't expect it to get. This isn't a test that if I work hard, I can get
Right.
better.
Yeah.
And that can be really frustrating if I'm used to working really hard and doing better if I practice and rehearse. And I thought I could get better if I did those things. I was doing lots of good things. And the challenge is, wow, that speaks to a challenge that's bigger than this, which is, here's our problem.
Yeah.
I need to go back and figure out, tell me what you heard the last time we were in that was going on with your husband, your wife, your mom, your sister. What did you hear from us? Because I'm wondering what you heard versus what I thought I said. And I'm wondering if we've had a miscommunication.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I have that conversation a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is challenging. Because
It
like I
is.
don't know how much people are absorbing in the moment
Well,
they're there.
often very little. If I was hoping that this wasn't going to be the indicator that it is, and it's consistent with other things, I was really hoping that that wasn't. And evidence is, and Beth can speak to studies, evidence is I don't hear anything after I hear the word.
Absolutely.
A fighter. If I'm a fighter, I want to go back and beat this thing. I want to fight it. I want to come back with results that we see you people were wrong. This is what we can do if we just put our nose to the grindstone and we work super hard. I've worked with her and I don't understand why she's not doing better at this because what it says is, wow, I'm in a hard place and she's in a hard place because we haven't really got to a place of appreciating you can do super well as a helper, but it's not changing the cognitive shift that's happening because of brain changes. But wow, I wonder how your relationship's doing if you're pushing really hard.
Yeah.
So Jeffrey, you had your hand up and I don't want to ignore it. Tell me a little bit about what you're thinking.
No, I was just what I wanted to, because it's Dizzy Skunk on your YouTube is asking, should we be worried about this test? And I didn't even actually administer MoCA to my wife because first of all, I'm not trained to administer it. And I just looked at it and I realized she couldn't pass this. She couldn't get, and that was good enough for me because it's like you say, what was I worried about? We were fortunate. We have a housekeeper and all that stuff. So, there's no problems with leaving the pan on the stove and burning the pan. None of that stuff of leaving the water running. None of that ever happened. But she was responsible for her own finances. And she couldn't, in the pandemic, her phone got damaged and I could not get it repaired. And it took me, it was 6 or 8 months before I was able to get her a new phone. And then I noticed when I got her a new phone, she couldn't remember how to use it. And then I asked her, prove to me that you're getting your pension, that it's not being stolen. And she couldn't get into her bank account. She couldn't remember how to use a computer to get into her bank account. And those were the concerns that I had more than MoCA. MoCA was just, as you say, it was just part of it. It was just, okay, that concern, it confirms that I should be concerned.
You should be concerned.
But it wasn't really, well, now she's got dementia or doesn't have dementia. It was
right.
That's my point about it. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, no, that's good because what you're doing is using it as a supportive aid in looking at the situation as opposed to using it a Bible or the law of the land is if she scores this, then she has it. If she doesn't score that, then she doesn't. And it's like, that's not how this should be working. But unfortunately, all too often we interpret things in ways that aren't healthy. And I'm just going to use not healthy because people get so worried about a score. And to repeat this over and over, where people start to really not want to go in, they don't want to participate, they don't want to be part of this, they don't like this anymore. I don't like going and feeling stupid. I'm not doing it. And all of a sudden, it defines a relationship. It defines whether or not I'll go and want assistance. And it's part of the stigma that we have, which is, if we don't have a baseline to start with, we don't notice things till way too far along. But at the same time, I'm not sure this screening device is what I would call a good baseline measure for many people. I think it's
You're
just a
very right.
possibility.
In my case, I noticed my wife's dementia, way too late. But I think what you're pointing out is that people with dementia, as you've taught us, they don't remember what you said or anything, but they do remember how you made them feel. So if you got someone with mild cognitive impairment and that stuff, they will remember that you made them feel stupid, and that's not good.
No, it's not good. And I don't want to be with you again, and I don't want your help, and I don't want to interact with you. So I wanted to go over that because there really is no magic of any of these screening tools. I mean, there isn't. And I want us to be thoughtful about it. Yes, we use it in the medical community to say, yeah, that increases our probability that what we're looking at is this, and it qualifies you possibly for programs or services or a variety of things. I would say that's because our system is broken, not because it's a particularly strong tool. Because as I said, one of the tricky parts is people with Lewy body dementia particularly can continue to pass this kind of thing for a long time. And in fact, we got real issues. Frontal lobe issues, again, unless we get to the part where we're reading a story and we got to come up with, this doesn't notice that because these tests were developed way back when we were only worried about Alzheimer's. And that's what we were looking for, evidence of Alzheimer's and the classic sort of areas of the brain where you see damage early on in Alzheimer's. And we now know there's over 120, 130 variations. And we just recently have come up with 3 new old age dementias that we didn't even know anything. I mean, this is like, yikes, this is really not healthy. So we've got to get better, and we are still not there. And to have this be and it's intense. The Folstein takes approximately minimally 20 minutes to administer. The MoCA, how long, Denise, classically would you say it takes to do it?
On the average with most folks, I would say about 15 minutes, but there are some people that I just take my time with. And when I start out with them, I've already been talking to them for a little bit. Hopefully they are feeling more comfortable. And I say, just do your best. This isn't timed. There's no rush. Yeah. There is one piece that's timed, and I'm going to tell you when we come to it. So they're not worried about rushing through and getting it wrong. But I've had people, it's really taken a long time. They're just really slow to process. And sometimes they don't score well. Sometimes they score better than people are going to give them credit for because they just have a slower process. And it's okay, but we just need to be kinder to the folks that we're giving this to.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story. So
the kindness piece, and I'm
preaching to the choir in this group, but
yeah, exactly. And like I said, it is a piece, and as you point out, and I think I put in the chat, it doesn't pick up on all forms of dementia either.
No, it totally misses.
FTD totally misses. People can score really well for a long time,
and cause great harm to themselves and others in the interactions because of the changes in the brain, and yet you can't pick it up on this particular screen.
And that's why, and it's just making sure that we're talking to the person, we're talking to the people that know them well to see where these changes are. Again, this is a small piece.
It is, and so you guys have talked so clearly about it doesn't really detect change that well in certain forms of dementia. There's also that ceiling effect and the floor effect. Either comes off as too easy and I'm passing it too well, whether it's background or ability to take tests, or I'm really scoring poorly on it. But then there's also that aspect when you compare all these different types, there's also an issue in the middle. And we've got this situation where these tests, once language is greatly affected in the majority of dementias, or the dementias that their primary initial focus is on language change and the way that it affects the brain, we find out that we've got this hole here in many other of these assessments. Now, don't have the MoCA and the MMSE on here, but these ones are a little bit more comprehensive and have to do a little bit closer with function. So how is it that I live my life? In the MoCA, we haven't even talked much about the functionality of how I'm living my life. And I think that's the piece that Denise talking about, this idea of finding out from the person what's going on. So, I mean, I think that's pretty much where to think about when you're developing, and I'm curious about this part, when you're developing a relationship with providers, what are the things, Teepa, that you look for to make this more of a relationship where someone is going to help you figure out how it is you're going to live life when this series of diseases come into your world?
Yeah. So if you don't have a relationship, or the relationship you have is one that's adversarial, classically, people will tend to want to avoid people or get rid of people that don't support me. I'm not going to put up with it. And if I have capacity, I'll get rid of you and then try to do the best I can with what I've got. I'll bring other people in, which puts me at higher risk for having people not working in my best interest, because I'm incredibly vulnerable to people who figure out my change and I can't pick up on their intent.
Mom, I need you to let me come over several times.
I don't
I'm just
need you
checking on
over
you.
here. I told you I'm fine.
I know you're fine, but
I need you. Did
Mom,
I ask
you're leaving the
No.
stove on.
I'm not leaving. I turned it on. That was once. You're making a lot out of nothing. This is
Well, just let me come over. If there's nothing going on.
Shut up. You are not the boss of me. I know what you want to do. You want to come over here and you want to find fault with everything I do. I'm not putting up with this. There's a lady nearby and she has been so much nicer. She gets me to and from the bank when I want to go, and she gets me a taxi, and all I have to do is use my credit card.
The lady at church who runs the office?
No, a lady that I met at the grocery store.
You met some lady at the grocery
store. Than you do at following what I ask her to do. She is the nicest woman. I've have her in the spare bedroom because she lost her house.
Okay, you know what? I'm done, Mom. I'm done. This is ridiculous.
Well, that's fine, because
if
I
Dad
never
was
asked
here,
you to
he'd
be
lose
involved
it
in the first place.
Oh my gosh, I've got to get her a payee. This is ridiculous.
You can go to court for this. I am taking you off of everything.
Mom, there's not going to be anything left if you give it to some stranger at the grocery store.
I will give it to a stranger before I have you come in the house and take everything away from me.
I don't want to fight.
Okay, we're going to. Now, I would love to say we're over the top and not what happens, but all too often, unfortunately, this can become the game plan. And there are a lot of very unpleasant and very skillful people out there who are taking advantage. And the highest growth rate of crime right now is people who are taking advantage of people living with brain change. It is incredibly high risk. And there are certain parts of the country that are super high risk. But here's the really horrible news. In every 4 situations, at least one of them, the person is either a family member or a close friend who knows doggone well what's going on. They clear out the bank accounts, they clear out the resources, and then they walk away and there's nothing left for care. And this is status quo. And this is really challenging because in a court of law, I'll pull it together just like I pull it together for a lot of things, because I value my independence over my safety. So what we believe is that if Beth doesn't learn new skills, she is going to be so frustrated with trying to help me. I won't take her help, and I'll turn around and run the risk of endangering myself, those around me, the resources, the building I live in, because I am so really adamant about protecting my who I've been and who I am. And Beth is not figuring out what she's experiencing is dementia in my house, in my brain and in my body.
So Teepa, this brings us beautifully to the basics of conversational skills that we work so hard on And sometimes it doesn't go the way we hope. But with that focus of relationship that Denise brought up, we have a scenario right here, a situation right here in the room that has to do with how it is I respond to someone in the moment when I get an ugly surprise, when I hear something that it's not what I'm expecting, or I feel like it's my job to let you know and reassure you that things are okay, or it's not as bad as you think. It's when any one of us has an agenda, and even if it's a good one, and we're not that evil family member or strange lady at the grocery store, God forbid. So these are the types of skills that I even work on with my husband, with my kid, that they work on with me. And it's about human interaction. And so I'm wondering if maybe we could start to give these concrete examples. Would that be a good place to go to at this one?
Go for it, Beth.
Okay. So we have our friend, new friend, actually, Laura, in the room. And her situation with her mom is something we hear often enough. And so, Laura, I'm going to do my best to try to describe a little bit to set it up to where your situation is with your mom and the struggle you're having. But I'm wondering if you are welcome to chime in at any moment and correct and kind of verify this information.
Okay.
Okay. So from what I understand, your mom is living in assisted living.
Yeah.
She's not in her home. She's in an assisted living, and that is her home now. And you talked about she's 88 years old, and that the word you use is she's having delusions. And so I asked you a little bit about those delusions, and you're talking about this idea of when there's this short-term memory issue, and when she, for example, thinks stuff is missing, but it isn't. Or she thinks relatives are visiting and they're not. They live really, really far away, and now they're missing. So this idea that it goes from something that I'm looking for with concern to an elevated situation where now we've got delusions of missing people. And it sounds like your question was about how do I respond in the moment? And I think this is also valid. It's also to keep your own sanity, much less also than supporting your mom. Is that accurate, or is there something there that's a little off?
She's got a lot of issues, like that's just one of them. There's
Mhm.
like the rummaging stuff that she does. There's
So she's in a seeking mode a lot of the time. She is missing something that's important, and she's not always sure what exactly it is, but she
Right.
comes up with things that it is, and she can't find it in those moments. So
Right.
missing is her theme. So of all the things that could be a theme, hers is I am missing someone, something, somewhere, somewhen.
Yeah.
I am missing. It's not where it should be. It has been taken from me, or people were here and they're gone. Things were here and they're not here anymore. And someone must have taken them because I had them here.
Right.
Yeah.
One day she called me up and she was in a nice mood and she said, "Oh, I guess you must have been here because somebody moved the muffins on my bed." And I'm like, "Oh, I guess you must mean pillows." But when I went to see her, she really did mean muffins. And she like started opening the drawers in her her night
Apartment.
tables.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what that was, but yeah.
Okay, so what happens is something happens, and the missing part for her brain is in the hippocampal area, so which is the learning and memory center. It's also the wayfinding center, and it's the keep up with the passage of time center in the brain. So those are the three things that your hippocampus does for you, and your mom's hippocampus is badly damaged. And so she has pieces of data, but the wiring between those pieces of data has frayed out on her. So she remembers a thing like you, and she remembers muffins that and this is the question, more than likely, given her situation, she got muffins at breakfast. She didn't eat them at breakfast, so she brought them back to her room. from breakfast, or somebody was going and they said, oh, look, I made these muffins. Here, have a couple. And that piece has been wiped out. That's gone. So what she has is muffins that are on the bed and you, and her brain then tries to create a synaptic connection that makes sense. So her brain says, oh, Laura must have come and put the muffins on the bed. Huh. Well, you know what? They don't belong on the bed. I'm going to put them in a drawer. But then she does it, and then that synapse gets wiped out. And so now, who took the muffins? They were on the bed. Where did the lady who came in here, she took the muffins, and I'm going to call, I need to talk to some. Hey, Laura, thank you for bringing the muffins. Now, what just happened again that my brain tried, and it happened really quick from all these scenarios. What just happened again for me? Eraser.
Why did you erase?
Eraser.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I'm calling Laura. Wonder what I'm calling. Oh, yeah, it's about those muffins. It's like, how did she get from the muffins to Laura to the... And then all of a sudden during the conversation, I say, well, they're not here. Where did you put them? It's like, well, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Right,
I mean, that's your initial feeling, is just like, how did I... So here's what we're going to do. Beth and I are going to role play it a little bit, so get a feel for what we could do. So I'm going to call, Beth doesn't know all this because I'm going to give another situation because I don't want her knowing the story, because this time you know the story enough.
Yeah.
Have you seen the heart of my elephant that I was talking about?
Oh, hey, Teepa. Beth, the heart of your elephant.
Well, not the heart of the elephant. That's not exactly what I meant. It's the center point of the one that John had.
The one that John had, the center part of the one that John had.
Yes.
Can you show me what you do with it?
Well, it's not here right now. That's why I needed you to help me figure out what happened to it, because it was here, I think.
It was here.
Yeah, because he mailed it.
Oh, he mailed it.
Yeah.
Oh, so he mailed it.
I mean, didn't he mail it? Because you were at the post office with him, weren't you?
You're thinking I was at the post office with him, and we picked it up from the post office and brought it to the foundation or something else?
No, I think, well, now I don't know. The foundation.
Oh, shoot, no.
Okay, so Beth, what just happened for you?
I introduced a word that wasn't in the reality for you at this moment.
And then where did I go?
You went, oh, shoot, I lost ground.
The foundation.
Yeah. So this concept of, I only give you what you have given me. If we screw up, I go, backing off of that one and see if I can ever let that one go, because now I'm really curious. Or
okay, so what are some challenges I'm having? Rest of the room, what do you notice that is happening that didn't necessarily happen so much in the last story with the muffins and the lady and Laura? What's happening more now as my distress is getting a little higher?
Definitely word searching.
I'm having more trouble with words.
Mm-hmm.
My words don't make as much sense. And I know it. I sort of know that my word choice is not the right choice. And yet, when I go to look for the word, then I lose where I was, because now I'm looking for the word, and now I'm getting more frustrated with what's going on, because now I can't hold the scheme of the word, the meaning of the word, and the relationship of what it was I was trying to get. And I'm getting sort of flustered.
So when I introduced the question, show me what you do with it, it was literally an open-ended question in the right direction, but clearly with the answer, I was like, nope, I've got to go to actually offering two choices that she can show me. It's got to be even more narrowed.
The central thing that of John part of the elephant. Somehow all of this is connected, and yet in this moment, you may truly not be able to figure all this out. Is it about figuring out exactly what I'm talking about, or is it trying to lower the distress state that I'm in?
Yeah.
Which do you want to focus on, do you think?
Lowering.
Lowering
yeah.
the distress
Lowering.
state because it's
Yeah.
getting in my way.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, usually. So let's work on lowering my distress state. Beth, do you want to keep playing, or do you want to have someone else step in? You're good?
We can
Okay.
keep playing, but we want to have somebody else try and show, because this is idea of trying to figure out and see what the pattern is of these sort of questions.
So I want to know why, when they came to visit, they are not here.
You want to know why they're not here.
Yes, because they came and now they're not here. And I want to know who arranged for them to get out of here before I even saw them.
You want to know. Now, Teepa, tell me, you want to know that they're safe or that they're just not here?
Well, I'd like to know why they didn't stop and see me when they came, and then whether they're okay. I mean, I don't want anybody to be hurt, but I just thought they would at least stop and say hello when they were here.
That's not cool.
No.
People get way too busy, don't they?
Yes. And I want to ask about the cup.
You want to ask about the cup? Your cup or
Yes.
somebody else's?
Well, the one that has been there, but then there's this replacement that I don't even know where it came from.
Teepa.
What?
You're looking for the different cup.
Well, this one is not mine, obviously. I wouldn't have one without a thing.
No, you wouldn't. Hey, Teepa?
Yeah.
Let's go get yours.
Well, why does this have my name on it?
Oh, it's got your name on it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's wrong. It's just not yours, though, is it?
No, I wouldn't get green.
You would.
No.
Yeah. Well, tell you what, come here.
Yeah. So let me ask you about something. So what are you noticing with my ability to hold on at this moment with a conversational pattern? How many back and forths before I start switching gears on you?
And Beth's having to go with you because you're all over the place.
So what am I seeking?
Visual cue?
I'm looking for stuff. If I see something, then my brain uses this thing for the next storyline, because I'm really having a hard time filling my life. My life is so empty now. I don't seem to have connections with people. People don't know what to do with me. I don't have connections with the place that I'm in. I don't quite know where I fit in. I don't know who's around and why my stuff keeps getting messed up, because it's not organized the way it has been organized, but I'm the one disorganizing it, because I'm really struggling with holding on to my world for more than 5 minutes. I lose track of where I am, what's going on around me, who I was with, what we were doing. And so I'm having to use visual stuff. But then when I see this stuff, if it's recent, well, it's not mine. I don't even know how this got here. And then if I like what I see, well, this is mine, and I want to know where it went.
Well, my mother does a lot of what you're saying, and like, let's say a cup was recently put in the apartment. This will make her. She doesn't like that. Yeah. Why did you leave that box here? You know,
You're wanting to know. Yeah, the box. That you're absolutely right. That should not been put there. I hate that happened for you. I'm going to do some conversation for sure. This shouldn't be going on. That's ridiculous. I am so sorry that happened, Mom.
Yeah. And Teepa, I'm not sure if it's safe for you to be in your apartment by yourself.
What? I'm fine by myself. What are you talking about? I'm fine. So can a statement like that help?
No. Okay, Mom, I'm gonna get some help for you to
I don't need any
to
help.
entertain you.
Last thing I need is more people messing. So
Well,
here's what
Mom,
I'm gonna ask
after
you for
you
a big
set the
favor.
fire in the microwave, you really
that was not me. That was the other woman. That's not, yeah. So this is Laura, where you're trying to use a reality check, and there is no reality you can check on my list. So the tricky part for you is letting go of the idea that you can get me to get help. And what you want to say is, Mom, I could use a big favor from you. What's that? I have a lady that is all on her own, and I think you would be the perfect person to at least spend a few minutes with her. She is not someone who has anyone in her life. And she's just really sort of lonely. And she's trying to learn how to do some stuff in the kitchen. And frankly, I don't know how good she is at it. But if you wouldn't mind, like, she could like try the microwave and see whether or not, but you could keep an eye on her, see what you think. Is she somebody who has some chance at doing the microwave or not? So we have to train the helper to be helped. And it's one of the missing pieces for people who are living with brain change, to have someone they can support and help. And yet their job is to be there to help that person, but it's not going to feel that way. It can't feel that way for me to accept. If I've always been a feisty, independent woman, I want to go down with my boots on, if that's who I am. So figuring out how to have me have a helping role is going to make a big difference as to whether or not I'll accept any assistance. So Jill, what was your thought?
I actually am working with a caregiver, very similar situation. Her dad's living with him, and he thinks that he's at a hotel and he was there to work, but I haven't been getting any paychecks. And where did all my coworkers go? And I got to go. And he does not always recognize his daughter and her family, and he wonders if they live there. And it just
hey
goes
John,
round and round.
this is here's what I hate. They had to lay some people off, but we're really counting on you holding the fort until there gets to be more people working again.
Why haven't I gotten a paycheck?
Now, that is a really good question. That needs to be investigated. That is not right. So let me make sure you know what I'm going to need? Let's get your Social Security down, because I've got to call and find out. That shouldn't be happening. You are absolutely right. I'm going to get now. Give me your formal name. Jonathan. Is it Jonathan or just John? I can't actually remember. Yeah. Okay. So now, how long do you think you've been owed for? Because I need to find out, because what we can do then is what's he really saying he doesn't feel?
He's not feeling, he was always a working man. And it's fake, because one day she said, well, he's doing fine now because he's out helping my husband in the yard. I said, well, there you go.
There you go. So, hey, John, I could really use your help. That's one of our favorite positive action starters is, hey, listen, I could really use your help. And what I really need is someone to help you, but it can't feel that way. It is so important. And with him, getting paid is an important sense of value. And so, you know what? I'm checking on the check. How about, can I at least buy you a cup of coffee? I owe you at least that.
Yeah. Exactly.
And maybe, how about a brownie?
Yeah.
Or would you rather have a muffin? Because this lady down the hall has, I'll leave it alone, people.
See, but it sounds like you are not necessarily this idea of going with versus white lies or therapeutic lies. So I hear what you're saying when you say these little statements like, it is not okay that you're not getting paid. What you didn't say is you have a job, unless I'm simply verifying. So you have a job and you work here. Okay, that's good for me to know, because that is not my reality. I'm verifying. That's not saying what I believe is the truth.
Yeah.
But in all of this, you're also heading somewhere to determine, as you did with the muffins, to determine with with John and the job, you're trying to figure something out. It is not necessarily exactly what the heart of the elephant is.
No,
It's the
it's
heart of the
not.
situation, isn't it?
It is. And what do I have here? Do I have somebody who's really seeking? Do I have someone who's hiding? Do I have someone who's hurting? Do I have someone? What am I looking at? What's really going on here that they need the support? So I've got to appreciate, where's this emotion coming from and what's missing? What need is not being met for this human being? Because I've got to say, wow, we have a mom who is feeling really lost, alone, isolated, and yet has no desire at all to be taken care of. So we've got to figure that out. Whereas Jill has a man in a house with a family who it's not about family right now because he doesn't recognize them as the relationship, unfortunately, due to changes. But what he does want to feel is valued, and valued in a way that's not just emotional value. He's asking for some validation of funds because that's what he's always done. You know, like, I can't get you a paycheck, but I could give you $5. Is that a start? You know, you're worth a lot more. But for right now, how about, want to go out to lunch? That I can swing because I have that much petty cash. You know what? Tell you what, you know what we need to do first? I think we need to wash the car. Now, you've always said, I think, that washing the car is something you should start at the top and work your way down. Is that right?
Well, yeah, because you got to start, because then everything just runs down. It's going to make it just a mess.
Do I wet it or scrub it first?
No. You got to wet it first, because then you add the soap. Otherwise, you're going to scratch the finish, Teepa. You never do this right.
Yeah. Now I'm remembering. Okay, so should I get a ladder thing or should I just get a chair? What should I stand on? Because I think I'm too short.
Well, which car? Let's go take a look at the car. Which car
Let's
you
go
got?
look at the car. Oh, good idea. Good idea. So now what I've done is, rather than talk about concrete, I've started to engage someone in physically doing something. So for somebody, Laura, like your mom, I'm betting she doesn't know what to do with herself. And part of what she's doing is she doesn't know how to engage herself. And she needs a partner who's skillful at letting her be the supervisor and yet guiding this along so that it feels like mom's the boss of everything. And yet what's happening is mom is being successful. You know what? I think Laura's coming. Why don't we make muffins? We'll surprise her. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We need to go to the store first. Now, I need to figure out how to get to the store from here. Tell you what, I'll drive. You be the navigator. Because I don't want her driving. And I want a reason why I'd be driving. And so all of this starts to become a puzzle that we put together. But if we don't have the person who can help, we're really stuck.
What I struggle with is, like, how many hours a week is this needed? You know, should I do this?
How many is she accepting right now, Laura?
Well, she's in assisted living, so there are people who kind of like push her in the right direction. So she goes to meals. She's not losing weight.
Right.
You know,
but how many hours of active engagement where she really likes what's happening is happening for her?
Maybe 2 if she manages to make. I know she loves chair yoga. She loves the physical therapist.
So what did I say she needs stuff to make her feel better? Doing things. She's better at doing things.
And so actually is better at doing things, right? So yeah.
That's what she needs, is she needs more opportunities to do things with someone, because then she has less time to worry about what she can't hold on to and what she's losing. Yeah. So finding somebody who likes to do stuff is probably going to be a better match for her than somebody who likes to talk, because she's not good at the talking anymore. But she's better at the doing. You just gave me all the evidence.
So I guess I got people from this Medicare program called Certified Dementia Program. And they were like, saying, well, we could give you a workbook workbook, but we don't, you know, somebody'd have to do it every day. And I don't really.
No. We need to, let's connect up a lot for another follow-up conversation, because
Okay.
what she is what she needs is not what they're offering. They are doing a standard package, and what she needs is what she needs. And that's the biggest challenge in dementia, is we start where the person is, not what I have to offer.
Right,
So
right.
let's follow up, Laura, on a
Okay.
conversation.
All right.
All right, everybody. Well, believe
Thank
it
you
or
so
not,
much.
you are so welcome. It's been an hour and a half. I want to thank everybody in our room, but I also want to thank everybody out there for tuning in and checking us out. Now, starting next year, this was our December offer. We're going to be changing some things up. So we'll be making some announcements about it. We are still planning on an evening sharing session, but we might change it up, how we're running it, how we're doing it. We're still in process. 2025 is coming up really soon, but we are going to let everybody know as soon as we work through all the details, and there'll be a announcement. So till next time, take care of yourselves and take care with your care.